Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of The Dribble, the show where we take a closer look into the Boston Celtics, the rest of the NBA, and whatever else might come up. My name is Luke Irwin, and I am your host. We have a great show. And guess what? You're stuck with me today. No guests, no Timmy KGB, no Wacky Mackey. Max and Tim are both doing their own thing. I said, stay back. I have this one. It is just me breaking down the Cavaliers and taking a quick look at what we saw with the Heat series ending in a gentleman's sweep. Yes, of course. We got a great episode. We're going to take a look into Tatum and kind of what he has accomplished thus far in the playoffs, not these playoffs, but just the playoffs in general in his career. And then we're going to look around the NBA at some exciting stuff happening. We're going to look at this last Heat series. And then, like I said, we're going to look forward to our opponent, the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Celtics and Cavs obviously have a lot of history when LeBron played for them, but we will get into it. And there's so much to get into. And I suggest we do. Because this is The Dribble. Okay, so, like I said, I want to get into something before I jump into the Cleveland Cavaliers game. I want to get into Jason Tatum, our glorious king. We all know Jason Tatum, what he's done for us over the last 6-7 years that he has been in the NBA. So I kind of want to go over what I've seen from Jason and what we've seen from Jason Tatum, because I've been saying this the entire year on the podcast. If you've been listening, if a long-time listener, first of all, thank you for listening. But I've been saying that this is kind of a changing of the guard. Right now, the NBA is in a really unique place because we have these older players who are still playing well. They're past their prime with KD and Steph and LeBron and some others, obviously Kawhi, James Harden, Paul George. Like, there are players that are kind of still playing at a high level, but not in their prime anymore. But then you have this new age of players where you have Luka, Jokic, Tatum, Giannis, now Anthony Edwards, SGA, the list goes on, that are kind of starting to actually take over. We see them maturing. We see true potential, not just like what ifs. We're seeing results. And so I kind of want to talk about that because, as most people know, right? LeBron no longer in the playoffs. Steph didn't even really make it to the playoffs. Made it into the play-in only, lost to the Kings in the play-in. And then Kevin Durant obviously got swept by Anthony Edwards, which we are going to talk about him. Anthony Edwards is clearly not beating the Michael Jordan allegations. He might be his son. I'm actually starting to believe that, and I was a doubter for a long time. But so those three guys who we've seen prolific playoff performances, playoff performers, they're always in the playoffs and they usually go far. At least one of them, obviously LeBron and Curry, met in the playoffs every single year, it seemed, with the Cavs and the Warriors. But now we have these new guys, right? And people are talking a lot about Ant-Man. Obviously, he's been dominating. He is one of only 4 or 5 players, including Lou Alcindor and LeBron James and Kobe Bryant, to have 3 consecutive 35 or more point games at the age of 22 or younger. Ant-Man is 22, and he's had a 36-point game, then a 40-point game, and then a 43-point game in this game 1 where he beat Denver. And that game 2 is actually going on right now as I'm recording this podcast. So is he going to break the record? All of them have 3. Kobe Bryant 3, LeBron James 3, Freudian slip, and Lou Alcindor has 3. Could Anthony Edwards break a record tonight? He might be doing it as I am recording this podcast. And then obviously SGA having a breakout year. He had a breakout year last year, but he's having an even more impressive year, bringing his team to a lot of wins and an impressive first-round outing. And then obviously Luka does what he does. Jokic is dominating the NBA, kind of claimed already that best player in the NBA. But it's always up for grabs every single year. People think it's not going to leave, but it's hard to hold on to the torch for a long time. But people are forgetting. They're forgetting. Because we had the Heat without Jimmy Butler and without Jaime Jaquez in the last game, and obviously without Terry Rozier, which, by the way, stop bringing up Terry Rozier was hurt, okay? I love Terry. Scary Terry always will hold a place in Celtics fans' hearts, but don't give me that. Oh, we would have beaten you with Scary Terry and 20 points per game, Jimmy Butler. No, you wouldn't have. Enough of that. The Heat play hard. They foul on every play. They play The one thing I will always give the Heat is that they do not ever let up. They never feel like they can't win a game. They can be down by 25 with 2 minutes left, and they still believe they have a chance. They will still shoot with confidence, play with a lot of energy, and that's just what they do. But we were beating the Heat regardless. And Tatum did a great thing in that Heat game, right? He pulled Bam, who was a finalist in Defensive Player of the Year. Rudy Gobert is going to get it, but he was a finalist in Defensive Player of the Year. And Tatum pulled him, basically, because they put him on Tatum because they know if they put any of the other scrubs that they have on Tatum, Tatum's going to just cook them. And Tatum just sat in the corner, picked his shots. He had a triple-double in the first game. He averaged 22, 10, and 5, which is a great line. The only other player to average a similar stat line with over 20 points or over 22 points, over 10 rebounds, and over 5 assists was Nikola Jokic, the only two in the first round to have that like kind of dynamic numbers. And he pulled Bam out of it. But anyway, the reason is, since he only averaged 22 points in that series, and Ant-Man is going off, and SGA is this newcomer, and Luka's doing what Luka does, and we have all these new guys playing, the media and everybody is forgetting who Jason Tatum is, what he has done for 6 straight seasons, which, by the way, has been exceeding expectations. We'll get into that. The narrative, for some reason, over the Celtics and Jason Tatum is that they've not exceeded expectations, that they've come up short. That's the thing you always hear about the Celtics. Every year they're right there, but they've always come up short. Yeah, they technically have come up short, but they weren't supposed to be that far in the playoffs most of these years. And there's this narrative that they've always had this super team and that Tatum has always had all this help and like he's lucky to have all this help, when really we've just drafted well from inside, and Jason Tatum has been a prolific star from the moment he came onto the court. And let's talk about that a little bit. So the most playoff wins since he entered the league. Jason Tatum entered the league with those guys, the old guard that I talked about, LeBron James, KD, James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, all those guys in their prime. And he still has the most playoff wins of any player since the Celtics picked him number 3 overall in the 2017 draft. Boston has 49 playoff wins. Golden State, the dynasty, has 48. Milwaukee, who won a championship, has 41. Denver has 41. Miami has 39. And all of those teams had stars that have had time to mature. Even Giannis was much older than Tatum was when Tatum had his first finals appearance. Tatum was only 23. It'd be like Ant-Man making it to the finals and having not a good finals. Are they going to roast him if he doesn't do that? Because that's the same case with Tatum. And out of all those years, like I said, people have this idea that for some reason the Celtics have been this super team when that's just not the case. Like, let's talk about the super teams that they've had. All players, by the way, little bit, no disrespect to these players, but to tell me this is a super team, like KD had a super team with Devin Booker and Bradley Beal. That's a super team. When you assemble like alpha stars who could all average over 30, that's a super team. And they got swept in the first round. But the people who are out here saying like, oh, Tatum's unimpressive, he hasn't won the championship when he's had such a good chance because all of his teams have been so stacked. Stacked? Kemba Walker is stacked? Is he even in the NBA? No. He's been playing overseas basically since he left the Celtics. Kemba Walker is not a star and was not really a star. We were happy for him when he came over. We were happy to have him, but no, come on. If you're trying to make that argument, you're ridiculous. All right, let's talk Kyrie. Kyrie and Gordon Hayward come over. Jason Tatum was a rookie, by the way, when Kyrie came over. Gordon Hayward, on the very first game of the 82 NBA season, broke his leg in half. Not just got injured, broke his leg in half, traumatizing. So Hayward's out. That super team already misses one of its links. Tatum is a rookie again. Repeat that. He is a rookie. And you have Kyrie, who was a mess in Boston. Everybody knows he was a mess in Boston. He was good that first year, but guess what? He got hurt with about 15 games left in the regular season, did not play a lick in the playoffs, and Jason Tatum brought that team all the way to Game 7 against the Cleveland Cavaliers and LeBron James, who was in his prime, fresh off of winning a championship the year before. Cleveland, this is for you. It was that LeBron James. And he took him to Game 7. Obviously, we know, dunked on him, played well. He averaged 18 points per game, about 6, 7, 8 rebounds per game, and 4 assists per game. He played well as a rookie, but he was the best player. He was the number one offensive option. That team also had, Terry Rozier, Jaylen Brown, but Jaylen Brown at that time was only a third-year player. He was a prolific 15 points per game. He actually had an issue back then with his left hand. And in that Game 7, him and Terry Rozier combined to shoot 1 for 19 from 3. We lose that Game 7, but we could have easily gone to the finals with Tatum as a rookie. So that team, not a super team. Injuries galore. No reason we should have been in the Eastern Conference Finals, but we were, right? And in that, we beat the Bucks in the first round with Middleton, with Brogdon, when Brogdon won Rookie of the Year, so he was playing well, and with Giannis, who was starting to ascend in stardom. We beat them in 7 games, and Tatum played amazing. He played great defense. It was kind of his coming out party. And then in that same year, we beat Embiid with Simmons, JJ Redick, Markelle Fultz, which obviously Markelle Fultz it's not impressive to beat him, but the narrative at the time, Markelle Fultz, if you remember, was taken first overall, and the Celtics traded their first overall pick for some assets because they knew they were going to draft Jason Tatum anyway. Everybody said Markelle Fultz is the surefire number 1. And as we know, looking back at that draft, Jason Tatum was the surefire number 1, and we got him. And so that was a huge statement for him to be like, no, I'm gonna crush you. I'm gonna go ahead and crush you guys and prove that I should have been the number 1 pick. And then, of course, the Cleveland series that we lost. And so not a stacked team. And then, like I said, we the next year was the Kyrie blow-up year where, we lost to the Bucks in the first round. That was our worst year, right? But Kyrie completely abandoned the team. If you remember that series, he was a ball hog. He wouldn't pass to anybody, and he was taking terrible shots, and he was awful. Go look at his numbers. I don't have them in front of me, but he was awful. So again, like, super team, what? The Kyrie that we saw in Cleveland and the Kyrie that we're seeing now in Dallas is not the Kyrie that, by the way, rookie and second year Jason Tatum had. So, again, not a stacked team. That team was full. Aaron Baines, again, like Terry Rozier. I love those teams. It was like Tristan Thompson was on that team. Like, what are we talking about here when we're talking super team? So all you out there, if you're listening and you think that the Celtics have always had stacked teams, incorrect. Then let's talk about the next year after that. That's when they went to the next phase with Kemba, like I said. First of all, again, Kemba Walker. What are you talking about? Would never be mentioned in a super team statement. And it would be Kemba Walker, Jason Tatum in his 3rd, 4th year, and Jaylen Brown, again, in his 4th, 5th year. So all of the above, except for Tatum, not even averaging above like 22 points. So again, super team, what are you talking about? A super team is Anthony Davis and LeBron James. A super team is KD, Booker, and that is a super team. Those teams with already proven stars, those are super teams. Not these teams. I love them. And then, like, who else did we have throughout this time, right? Marcus Smart. Come on. So you can't tell me that Marcus Smart, he won Defensive Player of the Year, and we made it to the finals that year. But other than that, I love Marcus Smart, heart and soul. But if you look at his numbers, he's an ancillary piece, right? On a super team, we're talking super team. I'm proud of these teams and what they did. But we exceeded expectations with all of these teams. None of these teams had the likes of what other teams had. And Jason Tatum, being the player that he was, he's a very team-oriented player. He likes to help. He likes to play well with others. He's very good at understanding that he shouldn't be high. He's never been a high usage guy. The highest usage that he ever had was in that year that he averaged over 30, first ever Celtic to average over 30. And, we lost in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals. But, every year he takes this team to the Eastern Conference Finals or further, it seems like, especially over the last couple of years. And for people who are having amnesia right now, we never had the number 1 seed, not one time in the Eastern Conference. Definitely not in the whole league, but not even in the Eastern Conference. And we never had the highest odds to even make it out of the East. Even the year we went to the finals, people forget. That was not a stacked team. We were about 500 in January. We did not look good. Our defense all of a sudden ramped up in the second half of the year. Ime Udoka, credit to him. Robert Williams had a little bit of a coming out party, but he got injured, right? And we didn't have him for a little bit. First series of 2022. Were we favored? I can't remember. Were we favored? No, we weren't favored because we were playing the Nets with Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and that team, which was a super team, and they were well favored above us. And we were told that we wanted to avoid the Nets, that we didn't want the Nets, because if we got the Nets, that would be game over, that we're going to lose to the Nets. And if you remember, the media was all over that. Oh, the Celtics are going to lose to the Nets. Celtics got the Nets. They're going to lose. What happened? We swept them. And Jason Tatum played lockdown defense on Kevin Durant and did exactly what Anthony Edwards is doing right now. I'm not diminishing from what those young players are doing right now, but we forget so quickly that that's exactly what he did. Swept Kevin Durant on a super team, outplayed him, had a game winner. People always say Tatum's not clutch. He had a game winner in game one, that spinning layup, an amazing play, and we swept them. Shocked the world, right? And then the next series, we took care of business, right? We went down, we played in Milwaukee. Jason Tatum had game 6 back against the wall, an elimination game where the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis, who was the prohibitive best player in the league at that time, MVP, he was amazing, he was a freight train, and he still is, but at this time he was really at his peak. And Jason Tatum went toe-to-toe with him, dropped 46 in Milwaukee in a ruckus crowd trying to close out the Celtics, dropped 46 in an elimination game, and sent us back to Boston, where we rained threes down. I think we had 22 threes in Game 7. And again, led by Tatum in scoring. And we won Game 7, moved on to the Heat. Heat are always a tough series. But what did we do? We won in Game 7 on the Heat's floor against a healthy Jimmy, for all you Heat fans. And Tatum won Eastern Conference Finals, the inaugural Eastern Conference Finals MVP, the Larry Bird Trophy. How fitting for a Celtic to win the first one. And then he went to the finals, and he didn't play well. But get over it. Get over it. I'm a Celtics fan, and I've gotten over it. He didn't play well. But also he averaged like 22 points, and he averaged like 7 assists, because that first game one, if you remember the game one that we won in Golden State, he had 13 assists. He didn't play well. He didn't shoot the ball well, but he had 13 assists, his playoff career high in the finals. We forget about that, though, right? Because it's all about scoring. It's all about scoring. Just makes me angry. It makes me hot. We forget so quickly what this man has already given the game, and he's 26 years old. He's only 19. And this is what he's given the game. And we forget that LeBron James got swept in his first time to the finals. And he averaged exactly the same amount of points, basically an identical stat line. But anyway, we forget about it. And now this year, finally, oh, by the way, in that I don't know if I mentioned this, but in that 2022 season where we did go to the finals, the Celtics, to start the season, had the 13th best odds to win the championship. 13th. So again, this narrative of like he's always been on a stacked team that's always been favored to win, and it's insane that he hasn't won. 13th. Best odds, and he made it to the finals. That's exceeding expectations. Every year he has exceeded expectations, fought through other injuries on his team, outplayed Giannis, Embiid, KD. Yet we forget, and we say that he's not a good player performer. Absolutely ridiculous and just incorrect. This is the first year that we've had the best odds. And this is the first year that we have the unanimous number 1 seed in the league, right? And this year, yeah, there's no excuses. The path in the East is a little bit easier than it's been, right? And so this year, yeah, this is the first year. But people are saying if he doesn't win this year, like, man, can he ever get it done? He's 26 and he's only done more than we expected him to do. So I'm sick and tired of it. It makes me angry. Flowers to Ant, flowers to SGA, flowers to all these people. But you're telling me you're going to pick them over Jason Tatum? You're insane. He's done nothing but win basketball games. Nothing. Oh, and not to mention that he also has, since he was drafted, including his rookie year, his sophomore, including all of that, and including LeBron James and Stephen Curry and all these players, Jason Tatum has the most playoff points since drafted. He has 2.2 thousand playoff points since he entered the league. Behind him is the Joker, Jokic, with 2,000. And then right in line with him is Curry. Steph Curry, ever heard of him, with 2,000. Tatum has more than both those guys, has more than LeBron, has more than all the other guys that you could think of in the NBA. But like I said, this year, we don't have an excuse. So let's talk about why. Let's talk about our, who we just, sorry, I'm going to move on. I know it's a rant, but it's a much needed rant because I'm sick and tired of seeing these people who know nothing about basketball acting as if points are the only important thing. They're not. I'm so happy for Brunson. He's scoring, and tonight he had a great game too. I'm so happy for Brunson. I'm so happy for Ant-Man, and I hope they go far. I want to meet the Timberwolves in the finals. That'd be such a fun series, and I hope we meet the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals just because Boston, New York, I don't want an easy path. I want those tough, awesome, legendary games. But anyway, moving on. Sorry, that was my rant. Started off hot. But let's talk about the Heat game. I want to talk about the Heat series just for like a couple of seconds. Wrapped it up, felt good. You know, they still scratch, they still claw, but they had nothing in the tank. And, you know, just thinking about this, actually, looking at my notes, I'm actually going to skip that. Sorry, it's suspense, but I'm going to give the Heat no more of my mental space because I just cannot do it, simply. Simply put, I cannot stand the Heat. So I'm just glad we beat them. I'm glad we shut them up. Jimmy Butler's been chilling in Cancun talking about, you know, if I were to be on the team, we would win. Like, talking like he's my, like, nephew. Like, just, what are you doing? No shade to my nephew or anything like that. But, like, such a childish thing to say. Like, we would have won if I was there. Like, no, dude. Heat fans, you act like you've owned us forever, but we're dead even 2-2 in series since 2020. And also, oh yeah, by the way, Celtics won 2 games on your home floor, but that's not an anomaly. The Celtics are 11-3 against the Miami Heat in Miami on Jimmy Butler's floor. Playoff Jimmy on his floor. The Celtics are 11-3. And yeah, we have an abysmal home record against Miami, but still 11-3 is dominant. So obviously on Sunday, the Celtics found out that they're going to be facing the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cleveland Cavaliers won Game 7 at home against the Magic. It was Magic went up big at first. Cleveland soared ahead, and Donovan Mitchell has been on a tear. 85 points in the last 2 playoff games that he's played combined. He had a 50-point game and a loss, and then in Game 7 he went off, and it was amazing. He's been playing really well, and he is a scary element of this because he's something that, as we talk about the Cavs here, he's something that the Heat didn't have, and a lot of teams that we play don't have. They like a very volatile scoring guard. Luckily, we have 2 of the best perimeter guards in Drew Holiday and Derek White, and then obviously Jason Tatum's a phenomenal defender. Long, has a lot of length, a lot of strength. Same with Jaylen Brown, an amazing defender. And then everybody else is capable on the floor at any given point to play defense. And I don't even mind any of our bigs being switched on to a guard. They seem to play pretty well on the perimeter, especially Horford, which is where I think we can get some more shots up. But they are good at defending the 3. Cleveland Cavaliers actually were 3rd in the NBA in guarding 3s as far as like attempts per game, allowing open attempts. They're number 1 in the lead in allowing what the league considers open 3-point attempts. So any 6 feet or more away. Cleveland is number 1. So they're not going to give you open 3s. Luckily, the Celtics don't need them open to hit them. They hit a high percentage of 3s at a contested rate. The Celtics do. So, you know, that's the biggest gap because then Cleveland on the other side offensively does not score a lot of 3s. But Donovan Mitchell is the game breaker here, right? We have several guys who can go for 40 any given night, but a team like the Heat didn't, right? And so we felt better about our defense. But sometimes you cannot contain a guy like Donovan Mitchell and even Darius Garland, who has actually played against us very well. He's had a history of playing well in Boston in particular. But let's look at the season series, what we saw as these 2 teams met, because when they met, they were mainly healthy. Kristaps did play in all of these games, but they had a 2-1 record. Celtics won the season series 2-1. If you remember, that one loss that the Celtics had was an abysmal, probably the worst loss we've had in years. Dean Wade, it was the Dean Wade game. Celtics were up by 22 points in the 4th quarter, and Dean Wade caught absolute fire and just destroyed us. And they came back and they won it. And that was a heartbreaking game. But again, we already had the number 1 seed locked up. We kind of rested. You could tell that we were in that mode. But it made a lot of Celtics fans worried. And of course, people are talking about that game a lot because in that stretch, there was a 9-minute stretch where Cleveland basically shut us down from the perimeter. And since we weren't feeling that energy, we weren't feeling like we needed to because we were up by 22, we were just shooting jump shots over and over and over again. And like I said, Cleveland is really good at defending the three. That's the number one thing that they do defensively. They're long and they can guard the interior, obviously, depending on if Jared Allen is ready to go. He has that injury that he's been dealing with. He's been out for the past 3 games. He looks probable to go, so we'll see. He'll be there certainly as the season goes on, but we'll talk about that in a second. But they're just really good at guarding the 3-point line. So we just were throwing up these shots, and in that 9-minute stretch where they covered and they fought back against that 22-point lead, the Celtics missed every single jump shot that they took. And I'm not lying about that. Every single shot that was considered a jump shot, the Celtics missed in 9 minutes. 9 full minutes. I'm not saying every single one as a figuratively speaking, where actually we hit a couple. None. We hit none. We hit absolutely none. No jump shots in that 9-minute period. So the Cavs are good at making you go cold and making you settle, right? So that's the one thing that they will be able to do to press this series and make it a little bit more competitive is they'll try to make us go cold. They'll try to give us little cold spells. Luckily, we showed it against Miami that if we're not shooting well, we have the ability to drive. We have the ability to move the ball, move the defense, and make sure that we get an appropriate shot. And if we play with the amount of energy and effort on the defensive end and on the offensive end that we did against Miami, there's no team in the East, I believe, that can beat us. But, if they can slow us down and get us into some cold shooting spells, then that is Cleveland's path to kind of making this series a little bit more competitive than it would normally be. Looking at it, like I said, there's some things that are pretty even, actually. So rebounds, Celtics out rebounded 46-43 as an average, 46.3 for the Celtics, 43.3 for the Cavs. The Cavs actually led us in assists, but just by 1 per game. The Celtics had more steals, and the Celtics actually had more blocks. Kristaps Porzingis was a big part of that. He had a lot of blocks in the games. Of course, he won't be here for this. And then, of course, field goal percentage was about dead even. And the Celtics scored an average in the 3 games of 120.6, and the Cleveland Cavaliers scored an average of 112.6, so an 8-point spread, +8 for the Boston Celtics in the season series. And then they shot dead even from 3, 38%, both of them, which, just like locked in there. So people are calling this a gentleman's sweep. I'm going to say, I don't know. I think it's going to probably be a little bit longer. That's 5 games. I think Celtics in 6. They win it in Cleveland because I do think that there will be a night where, Donovan Mitchell gets hot. Darius Garland's also hot. And like I said, it's also going to depend on Jared Allen if he's out there. What we saw in the games during the regular season was actually Jason Tatum, our glorious king that we just talked about, guarded Jared Allen. And he did an amazing job on him, really kept him down. But the reason we did that was so that we could easily come off switches because this team, the Cavs, are a little bit susceptible to switching, and we're a really good switching team. So if we put Tatum on a guy like Jared Allen, a big guy, we might try it with Evan Mobley, since Mobley didn't play in some of those matchups, and Jared Allen might not play. So if it's Mobley instead of Allen, we could see Tatum on Mobley just to make those switches a little bit quicker, a little bit easier, and just like to get to our spot. Because that's what's going to be key with these guys is to get to the spots defensively and make sure that our feet are there first, feet set, hands active against this team, because the guards can really punish you if you let your guard down, pun intended. But yeah, other than that, this is going to be an exciting series. 2 good defensive teams, 2 teams that are in the top 10 defensively. The Cavaliers' defensive net rating, or not defensive net rating, but defensive rating is 7th in the league in the regular season. So they're a formidable defense. Obviously, as you get into the playoffs, most teams are in that like high defensive, unless they have an incredible offensive performance throughout the regular season, like the Indiana Pacers. They are the number one offense in pace, and they're not a very good defense. So good news for Knicks fans. You might find it a little bit easier to score. Yes, even more easy than scoring against the Milwaukee Bucks and Damian Lillard. But the Celtics, of course, have been historically good all season. And again, another false narrative, people saying that they're one of the worst number 1 seeds of all time. In fact, Sorry to disappoint you, but they're actually one of the best number 1 seeds of all time. They've broken a lot of records, but they're top 5 in both defensive rating and offensive rating. So it's just going to be a tough series for Cleveland. It took them 7 games to get through Orlando Magic, which no shade to Orlando, but they have no scorers other than Paulo. So, I just don't think that it's going to be a too competitive of a series, but the one way that they can is if they really play an incredible perimeter defensive scheme and for a couple games knock us off of our spot on the 3-point line, and if they also just get hot as far as Darius Garland and obviously Donovan Mitchell. And they do have a good, solid core, the Cavs do, so certainly not looking past them. And the Celtics certainly should not too. We've had our hands full with the Cavs in the past couple of years. They've beaten us on some heartbreaks. That overtime game where Tatum had the huge dunk to tie it, and then he had the huge block on Mitchell to send it into overtime. And actually, that's another thing. I know I just glazed my glorious king, Jason Tatum, but they actually hold Jason Tatum to 39% shooting. 39% shooting. He's had some good games against them, but they do a good job. Their length and their size do a really good job. They do have a lot of length. Like Evan Mobley is a tough guy for a guy like Jason Tatum to score on. What we want to see is Jason Tatum go away from the pull-up shooters. Okay, his efficiency is way down. He in January and February had his efficiency go up, but his efficiency over the last couple of months on pull-up shots has gone way down. So Tatum, drive to the basket. You're 6'8", right? Drive to the basket, get the ball moving, and that will spell good things for the Boston Celtics. So I think Celtics in 6, but it's going to be competitive. I hope it's shorter than that, and who knows, could be longer than that because it is the NBA, and people keep talking about talent disparity between the Celtics and the Cavs. Donovan Mitchell's pretty damn talented. Darius Garland's pretty damn talented. We talked about Evan Mobley for years. He's pretty talented. Jared Allen, pretty talented. And we saw what Max Strus on the Heat can do. I'm not, but he's not that talented, but pretty talented, right? He's not a bum by any stretch of the imagination. So it'll be fun, right? Cleveland, Celtics, we've seen a lot of good series between them. Obviously, like I said, when LeBron James was there in the early years, we kicked him out of the playoffs a few times, had that great Game 7 battle in Boston, Pierce with 42, James with 45. We come out with the win. That was one of the most fun, or I think it was the semifinals, but that was one of the most fun series I've ever seen. That really was a series that kind of made me fall in love with the Celtics and with Celtics basketball. So looking ahead, let's look ahead to this series, what to expect, when to expect the games. The first game will be happening tonight, Tuesday night in Boston, and that is at 7 o'clock, and that is on TNT. TNT, 7 o'clock. Tuesday the 7th, and then we're back to that regularly scheduled programming. No more 2 days before games like we had in the first round, which was kind of strange. We have Thursday is the game after that. Game 2 in Boston, another 7 o'clock game. This one's on ESPN though. And then Saturday weekend game, we have an 8:30 nighttime, Saturday night primetime game on ABC on Primetime Network. That's going to be in Cleveland. So they're really juicing that first Cleveland home game, trying to hope to push the Celtics, because we all know the media hates the Boston Celtics. We love the Boston Celtics over here on the Dribble, but the media hates the Celtics, want to see them fall, and that is why they keep leaving Tatum out of these conversations and trying to talk about these other new kids. Again, I know I'm throwing a lot of shade, and I just want to repeat, I love Anthony Edwards. He is quite possibly the second coming of, well, I wouldn't say the second coming of Michael Jordan, because obviously Michael Jordan is so great, and obviously Kobe Bryant was the second coming of Michael Jordan, but he is of that same mentality at least. He hasn't won anything. Maybe this year he goes pretty far. He's so young though, but he does show that mentality, that go and get it, that dog, as we say. So it is impressive, and I'm super excited to follow his career and see where he goes. And maybe and hopefully there's a rivalry, East-West rivalry between Tatum and Ant-Man. That would be just fun. That would be fun. Two people who go about their business in a different way. One is loud, one is quiet. And by the way, actually, before I continue on with the rest of the schedule, I want to play this quick clip of Jason Tatum responding to, after the Game 5 win against Miami, responding to people basically calling the Celtics soft. And I loved his answer because it's so true. And we all think Ant-Man's the second coming of Jordan because he's yelling, he's out there talking trash, he's out there, the sound bites are incredible. He has so much confidence, so much charisma. And, people are saying, oh, he's so tough, he's like MJ and Kobe. We all know that Jason Tatum loves MJ and Kobe, his two favorite players. So maybe he was taking a jab at Anthony Edwards. I don't know. But listen to this clip of him responding to people saying that they might be soft. Check this out.
I never understood that. Like, what's the definition of tough? Like, having the louder guys on your team, like that shit don't make you tough. Everybody has their own definition of what toughness is. It's playing the right way, showing up every day to do your job without complaining. I think that's being tough.
I love that, right? He's like, what, just because you're the loudest means that you're the toughest? That's not tough, right? And it's kind of like a little bit like the Drake and Kendrick beef, not to bring too much of that into it. But anyway, and by the way, for anybody listening, just like with Tatum, I am Team Kendrick. Don't get it twisted, okay? I am Team Kendrick all the way. So like I said, Tuesday, tonight is the first game. Then Thursday is the second game. Saturday at 8:30 on ABC is the first game in Cleveland. And then Monday at 7 o'clock back on TNT is game 4. And then as needed, it just goes on that 2-day split. Wednesday, Friday, Sunday are the final 3 games if needed. Again, if needed. So, yeah, I think I covered everything. Had my little rant. Talked about the series coming up and talked about, getting the heat out of our hair. So, all right, let's play some games, right? Until next time, because next time we'll have some games under our belt in round 2. We can talk about, we will have Timmy KGB back on. It won't just be me ranting, and we'll go over it, and maybe we'll bring Max in there here too to just dive into some stuff. And yeah, let's go Celtics. This has been the Dribble.